What if you could dock a 60-foot yacht in your backyard and be out to open water in as little as 2 minutes? Now, in the Orchid neighborhood of Cape Coral, that's not a dream, it's a Tuesday afternoon. And in this video, I'm going to take you on a complete map tour of the Orchid neighborhood, part of the Gold Coast in southeast Cape Coral. We're going to cover exact boat travel times to open water from every canal in the neighborhood, the 2 bridges you need to know about on the Malaga Canal, and what they mean for your boat, flood zones throughout the area, and why the Orchid neighborhood is attracting serious waterfront buyers right now. My name is Cessna, your Gulf Access Realtor here in Cape Coral, and this is the information you won't find anywhere else. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome in. I'm Cessna, your Gulf Access Realtor here in the beautiful city of Cape Coral. Now today we're going to explore the Orchid neighborhood here in southeast Cape Coral. We're going to talk about distance to open water. We're going to talk about bridge heights here in the Orchid neighborhood, and then we're also going to talk about the flood areas. Is it a flood zone? Is it not a flood zone? We're going to jump into that as well. Really excited to go over this area. This is part of the Gold Coast area of Cape Coral, and I'm going to explain a little more about what that means here in just a few minutes. But right now, let's go ahead and dive in. So many people ask, where exactly is Cape Coral located? Cape Coral is located on the southwestern side of Florida. We're on the Gulf Coast. We're about 2 hours south of Tampa, about 50 minutes north of Naples, 2.5 hours from Miami, and about 3 hours from the parks there in Orlando, like Universal Studios, SeaWorld, and Disney. So easy access wherever you need to go in Florida. You have easy access to get there, but you can always come home to a nice relaxed vibe here in Cape Coral. Now, Cape Coral is located directly across the Caloosahatchee River here from Fort Myers. That's the big city. And the RSW airport, the major airport, is going to be located right over here. It's about a 30-minute drive from Cape Coral, depending on traffic, give or take. But today, we're going to zoom in to Cape Coral. Cape Coral is the peninsula right here. And as you can see, what makes Cape Coral so unique is it has over 400 miles of navigable canals here in the city. It was a design city by the Rosen brothers back in the late 50s, and they went through and they started dredging canals throughout the city. Now, many of the canals are Gulf access canals, meaning you can dock your boat right in your backyard and navigate out to the open water. Now, a lot of the canals in the northeastern part and the middle part of the city are going to be freshwater canals. So if you are purchasing a canal, you definitely want to know the difference between a freshwater and a saltwater or Gulf access canal. So let's zoom in here. Today we're going to talk about the Orchid neighborhood, and that's going to be this area right here, west of the Caloosahatchee River, and then it's bordered on the east by Del Prado, and then we're going to go up north to the Beach Parkway and as far south as this area right here, Southeast 46th Lane. So let's jump in and take a look of the area. Now, this is located real close to downtown Cape Coral. So if you're looking for easy access to downtown Cape Coral, you're looking for easy access over to Fort Myers, it's right near the Cape Coral Bridge. It's really a convenient area, but it's also easily accessible to get out to the river. There in this area here, you're not going to have anywhere more than, I believe it's about 10 minutes in this area. Now, if we go underneath the bridge, we're going to show you that. This little stretch right here, which goes over to Coronado Parkway. We're going to go over the distance from here to open water here in just a moment. But let's talk about the area. So downtown Cape Coral is a great area to go. We've got plenty of restaurants, bars, nightlife, just a great area to go and spend some time with friends and family. There's also plenty of other businesses, attorneys, doctors, title companies, lots of different businesses here in this area. One of the things that they just built here is the Cove at 47th, which is a luxury apartment complex, and they put Aqua, which is a high-end seafood restaurant right on the corner of Cape Coral Parkway. They even have a rooftop bar, which is a really cool place to go and hang out. Other areas that you want to be aware of if you're into the nightlife, you have back streets right here. You're going to have Rusty's over here, Cape Cabernet's over here, all kinds of places. They even have the Dixie Roadhouse, which has country dancing. So if you're looking for music, live music, that's the place to go, as well as many different restaurants along here. Some of the restaurants that I enjoy going to is one is called Nice Guys Pizza, which is located right over here in this area. And then you have Two Meatballs in the Kitchen. It's a great Italian restaurant right over here. You also have a great Mexican restaurant, Three Margaritas, on Cape Coral Parkway as well. And if you go back a little bit further, you're going to have seafood. You're going to have the social house right here on the corner, which also has some great food. And then one of my favorites as well is going to be Hooked Island Grill, which is going to be this one right over here. And they've got these really cool blue globes that come up and down from the ceiling, and really good food. They even have a special night where they have all you can eat crab legs. So if you love crab legs, look into that special, see if they have that still going on when you're down here. But this is the downtown Cape Coral area. Lots of great restaurants, food, and all kinds of amazing things. As we go to the other side of Del Prado, which the main intersections are Del Prado and Cape Coral Parkway, you're going to have the Slipaway food truck area, which is right here, brand new. It's been there about a year now, but it's going to be a really premium upscale food truck park where you can pull in your car and enjoy a great food. They have a little bar there as well. And then they have multiple transient slips there where you can dock your boat and just enjoy a nice evening there at the food park. Over here at Bernice Braden Park, they just recently put in the tallest flag and flagpole in all of Florida. It stands at 250 feet to commemorate our 250th birthday of the United States. So that's really cool. Coming over the bridge, seeing that welcoming you home is really a fascinating sight to see. They also do Red, White, and Boom here in this area, which is the largest fireworks display in all of Southwest Florida. And they close the road down so you can walk here and sit and watch it from land, or you can go take your boat into the river here and watch from the river, which many folks enjoy doing. Okay, let's go ahead and go up a little bit more. I wanted to point out we have Cape Elementary School right here. Over here, we have Veterans Park, which has lighted bocce ball courts, basketball courts, and they're putting in some tennis ball courts. They're doing a renovation right now to really make it a lot nicer than it was. I mean, it was nice, but they're redoing some of the courts and really giving it a facelift. And then, of course, Del Prado, up and down Del Prado, you have multiple different restaurants there, as well as coffee houses. And then I'll also point out to you Monarcas, which is this restaurant right here, where it's a Mexican restaurant, one of the best Mexican restaurants in the area. And they have transient slips there as well, where you can pull your boat right up and dock it and enjoy a great Mexican dinner. We also have the boats here, where I believe they're the little tiki bars, where you can get on those, book a reservation, and they'll take you out and have a good time. But let's jump into the Orchid neighborhood and let's talk about this and what it's all about. So let's go ahead and get into the distance to open water. All right, let's get into the Orchid neighborhood and distance to open water. So what you're going to notice first is the Orchid neighborhood here near the Caloosahatchee River is going to be lots of beautiful, amazing homes right on the river. You're going to see some great properties in this neighborhood. Now, as we get a little further back, and what I wanted to do is take you down this canal here. Now, this is the Malaga Canal. And what you're going to notice if we zoom in right here is that the whole canal has a lot of condo and townhome type properties up and down it. We don't see any single families here, and that's how it was zoned and designed. Now, one of the things you definitely have to be aware of if you're in the market for a condo is you definitely want to know if the dock's a deeded dock, meaning that it's your dock, you hold the deed, you can use that as your own because it is yours, and when you go to sell the property, you can sell it, or if it's a community dock. Now, many of these properties have what they call community docks, so it's owned and maintained by the HOA, and it's a first come, first serve usage. So you definitely want to be aware of that. Now, a lot of times you can tell that just in the price of the property, because if it does offer the deeded dock, usually the value of the property goes up substantially compared to one that doesn't offer that. Now, many of these buildings here in the Orchid neighborhood and on the western side of Del Prado were built back in the 70s, the early 70s, a few in the early 80s, and they reflect that. Now, as we zoom in, you can see the different docks here. Like this one doesn't have any docks, and then as we go along, but just be aware that when you're buying those, whether the dock is deeded or it's a community dock. Now, as far back as we can go is the very end over here, basically bordering Coronado Parkway is going to be the Malaga Canal, and it's going to be about 1.6 miles to get to open water, to get out to the river from here in about 16 minutes. It's a fairly easy run, but it is going to take you probably about 16 minutes because you're going to be going at idle speed, which is anywhere from 5 to 7 miles an hour. All of the canals in Cape Coral are no wake and at idle speed. So we do have a couple of bridges here, so we're going to get into bridge heights here in just a moment. But this is this neighborhood here. This is Del Prado, and then you'll cross under here by Monarcas, the Mexican restaurant. And this will get you out. Now, as you can see, this canal is about 80 feet across, but many of the canals, and especially over here in the Orchid neighborhood, are all going to be about 200 feet across. So just incredible water views if that's what you're looking for. Absolutely stunning. Deep water canals, very wide. As you can see here, look at some of the boats that they have docked back here. Check out this one here. That's got to be at least 60 feet long. But the sky is the limit. You don't have any bridges on this side. It's all direct access. All right, so from the Marlborough Canal right here, 0.8 miles, about 8 minutes to get you out and around to the river. Now, as we go on down here, and this is a huge condo complex here. Now, I do know in this condo complex, they do have deeded docks, so you get your own deeded dock. So be aware of that, and have this really cool sun deck here out on the water, if that is what you're looking for. Now, also be aware that if you do buy a condo, your HOAs are probably going to be anywhere from about $700, $800, $900 per month. So a lot of people, depending on what their budget is, they'll just buy a home before they go in and buy a condo. There are so many amazing homes in Cape Coral at affordable prices that the idea of owning a condo is not as appealing as just purchasing a home, where you own the home, you own the land and everything else, and you eliminate that HOA fee, and you eliminate the HOA for that matter. Now, as we come on down the canal here, we're going to stop at the Slipaway Food Truck Park and Marina. They actually have a gas here. They have a little ship store where you can get supplies, things like that. And this is on the Mandolin Canal. Now, from Slipaway, it's going to be about 0.2 miles, about 2 minutes just to get on out here to the river. So it's a nice quick run to get out there. I will point out some of these incredible homes here on the river. Now, these lots are all going to be selling for well over $1 million if they do become available. And what happens, like you see here, if there was a home on this lot, there probably was. It was an older home. They went in, they knocked it down, and now they're going to build a little mansion there. And this is the luxury market that I often talk about in Cape Coral, where this is happening. It's happening right on the river, or some of the canals right behind the river. But really a lot of money starting to pour into the city. And it's just because you can buy these incredible lots, knock down the older home that was sitting on it, was built back in the 60s and 70s, and build these beautiful homes on them at a fraction of the price that you would pay in, say, Naples, Miami, Tampa, Sarasota, and those areas. All right, let's go a little bit further north here, and we're going to go back to the back of the canal system. Now, this is the Orchid Canal up here at the top, and this is just south of Beach Parkway. You're looking at about 0.9 miles, about 9 minutes to get on out to the river. I also am fascinated by these little finger peninsulas here, because when you have these little finger peninsulas, that means that the houses on each side are going to be golf access homes. Oftentimes meaning that you're going to get bigger homes. It's going to be a nicer street than, say, something like this, where you have some landlocked homes on there. So you're looking at your neighbor's house, which might be a little bit smaller. In this situation, you have this grand mansion here, and then you have this smaller original house here that was probably built back in the 60s. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really affect the value of the property much. I just think it's something interesting that if you do have that option, or it is available, to try to buy on one of those peninsulas. But it's definitely not a deal breaker, and I wouldn't recommend that going out of your way to try to figure that out. But if you do have that option, just understand it's a really nice feature to have. And these are all these 200 foot canals going across. Now we go on down here to the Odyssey Canal. You're looking about 0.6 miles, about 6 minutes to get on out here to the open water, to the river. And then over here, the Oriole Canal, about 0.3 miles, 3 minutes to get on out and around. Now in our next video, we're going to talk about JC Park, which is right here, which has had its bit of controversy here over the last year and a half. And the reason for that is this is an old picture. And you see these trees, these are Australian pines that were along it. And the city decided to go in and completely renovate the park. And so these beautiful shade trees that were right along the river were all torn down. Now they're Australian pines, they were invasive. However, it was really beautiful, but they did block the view of the river. So it really, by taking them out, and what they did to renovate the park, they put in volleyball courts, they put in a huge splash pad for the kids, they put in a couple of playgrounds, a little bit of a food truck park that they're working on now that they're gonna have. They have an amphitheater for concerts. It's a really cool area there now, really more family friendly than it used to be. And a boardwalk right along the water so you can look at the river and watch the boats go by. It truly is a more special place than it used to be, but it was sad to see them take out all the tall Australian pines there, and it was a controversial thing, but a lot of people are still upset about it. But overall, I believe that it definitely enhanced the value of Cape Coral and gave the people that live in this area or within a few miles of this area a really great place to go and enjoy the evening or enjoy the day. But that's JC Park. We're going to get into that when we talk about the beach neighborhood here in the next video. But this is the Orchid neighborhood. So lots of great opportunity here. It's not huge, but one of the things I wanted to talk about is the the Gold Coast of Florida and the Gold Coast of Cape Coral. Now, there's multiple neighborhoods here in Cape Coral, and it's called the Gulf Coast, and it stretches from the Cape Coral Bridge here on the bottom, on the south, up here to the Midpoint Bridge. It's these neighborhoods here, and there's going to be, I believe, there's about 6 of them. There's going to be the Orchid, Beach, you're going to have Savona, Palaco Grand, Cornwallis, and then Everest. So you have several different neighborhoods there, and we're going to hit each one differently just so we can really dive into each one because they each offer something a little bit more unique, and I want to do them all separate. So, but this one is the Orchid, and that's the one we're doing right now. So next up, we're going to talk about bridge height. We don't have any bridges out here. Everything's direct access if it's east of Del Prado, but once you get back behind Del Prado, there are 2 bridges here on this Malaga Canal. So let's go ahead and jump into that and talk about that here in just a moment. All right, let's talk about bridge height here in the Orchid neighborhood. Now, as we just talked about, if you are east of Del Prado Boulevard, you're not going to have any bridges to contend with. So you can dock your high center consoles, you can dock your cabin cruisers, your larger cabin cruisers, you can dock your sailboats, all that great stuff can be put out here. And if we zoom in, you can see different boats that they actually have here on the larger side. Now, if we go back behind the bridge, if we go down Malaga Canal, now it turns into the townhomes and condos as we go back here. So you're not going to have larger boats docked back here like you would on the other side. And as you can see that, no sailboats. They understand the bridge height and what they can get under. So you really have to understand the mean high water, which is the average of the high tide. So basically where your boat is at the water line to the very top part of your boat. And then once we have that information, we can find you the right canal system to be in. Now this one here, it's not terribly low, but it is 8 feet 8 inches. So you need to understand the boat that you're running, and if that'll work, that's great. You can purchase back here. Now, once we go under the bridge here at Vincennes and then go out to the canal here, we're actually going to have 8 feet 9 inches going under Del Prado. So a little more extra space there, just an extra inch, but that's the mean high water level, the average over the last several years for high tide. So be aware of that. Now, if you're on this side of Del Prado, it means absolutely nothing to you, and the sky's the limit with some moderation, of course. So those are going to be the 2 bridges in the Orchid neighborhood. You do need to be aware of those if you are going to be back there. But typically, if you're going to be back behind those 2 bridges, you're pretty much going to be buying a condo. So if that's your style, that's what you want to do, that's what you need to keep in mind. But if not, then you can have it out here. And with that being said, there's also condos that are here on this side where you can dock your sailboat and many other taller boats as well. As you can see, there's a few, looks like a few sailboats in here. All right, so those are the 2 bridges in the Orchid neighborhood, bridge heights in the Orchid neighborhood. Let's jump on to flood zones, because a lot of people ask me, Barry, it's right on the river, what flood zone is it in? So we're going to talk about that and kind of explore that here in just a second. So let's jump into flood zones for the Orchid neighborhood. All right, understanding flood zones in Cape Coral is extremely important. A lot of people tell me, Barry, I don't want to be in a flood zone. Well, technically, all of Cape Coral is in a classified flood zone. You have 3 different zones, basically is AE, X500, and X. Now, AE means that there's a 1% chance each year for a substantial flooding situation. Now, zone X500 said there's a 1 in 500 chance of there being a substantial flooding disaster. Now, flood zone X, now that's going to be very minimal chance of ever having a flood in that area. Not 0, but minimal. So depending on what your level of comfort is, you really need to know where you want to be. Now, if it's an AE and you're getting a mortgage, typically the lender is going to require you to purchase flood insurance. Now, if it's X500 or X, typically the lender is not going to require any flood insurance. So those are 2 things to be very aware of. Now, oftentimes, the most easily accessible properties, the ones closest to the open water, are going to be in zone AE. So as we look at the Orchid neighborhood here, and that's going to be south of Beach Parkway and north of Cape Coral Parkway, we're going to zoom in. And as you're going to notice, it's all AE, this pinkish color. And that's because it sits so close to the river and the elevation that it sits at. Now, I have some friends that live over here in this area right near the river, and during Ian, they said they got zero water in their house. Like, the area really didn't flood. There was some water that came up, but the area didn't flood. There might have been a few houses on the street or in this area that did receive some floodwaters, but these areas up along the Gold Coast didn't see the water intrusion that, say, some of the areas over here in the Yacht Club or the 8 Lakes Tarpon Point area saw, some of the older homes in that area. So even though, like we talked about, the dirty side of the hurricane, when the hurricane swirls, Hurricane Ian went through north part of Cape Coral, and it was just swirling, going counterclockwise, pushing this water up the Caloosahatchee River. And when it went up the Caloosahatchee River, it went up several feet, and then it got pushed right back into the canals, and that's where we saw flooding. Now, a little bit further up here in this area, these homes did not see a lot of flooding. Now, I can't tell you with accuracy that there were no homes that flooded in this area because I don't know. But I do know that there were homes in this area that absolutely did not flood, and they didn't see near the challenges that they saw in the other southern parts of Cape Coral. So as we zoom in also, you'll see that you will be required to have flood insurance. I also wanted to show you this. See, this says elevation 8 feet. So FEMA has come in and they've said basically any new construction needs to be built at least a foot above this. So at 9 feet elevation is the base level. So whatever the lowest part of your home is, not including the garage, but whatever the lowest part of your living space is, it has to be a minimum of 9 feet. So what they'll do is they'll knock down some of the older homes, and then they'll build up the lot and then make it much higher. And that makes a much wiser, smarter decision. So oftentimes it's always best, if you're trying to minimize your risk, to have a newer home. Now, with that being said, you're always going to pay a premium for that as well. So it just depends on your risk, but we definitely want to get the cost or the price of insurance, homeowners insurance and flood insurance, during the due diligence period. Once we get under contract, we typically have about 10 to 14 days. And during that time frame, we do the inspection. We have the inspector provide us with the wind mitigation report, which tells us how ready the house is for a potential storm. And then we also have the 4-point inspection, which covers the roof, HVAC, electrical, and plumbing. And we provide that to the insurance company. Then they're able to give us an accurate estimate of how much, or an accurate quote of how much that policy or those two policies are going to cost. Because there's two different policies in Cape Coral. There's a flood policy, which covers any water coming into the house. And then there's also a homeowner's insurance policy, which will cover like wind and then anything else that your home insurance policy would cover up north. So be aware of that. And we definitely want to know what that is. Now, sometimes if the previous owner or the seller has a flood insurance policy, that can be transferable over to you at a substantial savings. Because when you have to get a brand new policy, it can get a little pricier than if you get a policy that was grandfathered in, and you can have that transferred from the seller to you. So always ask for that whenever you're purchasing a home in the AE flood zone area. Now, if we go back here a little bit, you can see we start to see a little bit of yellow. However, it is all pretty much going to be AE flood zone. The yellow is X500, and as we go a little further north, and we're going to talk about this in another video where you get into this, and you can actually see back here on the Rubicon Canal, you don't have to have flood insurance. These are homes, as long as they're completely in the X500 box, typically you're not required to hold flood insurance. Now, should you have flood insurance? I always recommend it. But if you're an X500, your chances of flooding are much, much lower than if you were AE. But with that comes the cost much, much lower as well. So if you want a flood insurance in Zone X500, it's at a substantial discount than what you would pay in AE. One other note I will tell you, when you're buying a condo, and this happened to me, I was helping a seller sell her condo, and we discovered that the HOA was not carrying any flood insurance. The HOA, the people in the HOA or the community decided that they weren't going to carry flood insurance. And what that meant is that somebody had to pay cash if they wanted to purchase a property or purchase a condo in that property, because the bank would not lend or give a loan because the HOA would not carry the flood insurance. So those are just simple things that you need to be aware of if you are looking to purchase a condo. And then the last thing with the condos I will tell you is recently, if the condo is 3 stories or higher, not including the parking structure, so it habitable stories or higher, it is required once it hits 25 years to have an inspection done of the foundation and the building structure. Due to the Surfside collapse, which happened over in Miami a few years ago, Florida came in and they put in some new laws on the books to make sure that owners are protected. So if you are in a taller building, you need to have that inspected. If they do find something, that will have to be fixed or repaired, and that can come at a substantial cost to the owners. So one of the things you've probably been hearing in the news is condo prices dropping. Condo prices just dropping through the roof, especially over in Miami. In that area, the older properties are really losing their value. And that's because of this, because it can be a substantial expense if that inspection did reveal something major within the property. So if it's near the coast, within a few miles of the coast, which all these are, if it's 3 stories or taller, at the 25-year mark, it would have to be inspected. And I believe it's every 10 years after that. So don't quote me on that one, but I believe it's every 10 years after that. So just be aware, if you're buying a condo, there are certain things that you need to know. And it helps to have an educated agent that knows that as well. So that's going to conclude the Zone AE and the flood zone for the Orchid neighborhood. I'm sure you found this information helpful. I'm excited to share it with you. If you are thinking about buying, selling, investing, relocating, or retiring here in the beautiful city of Cape Coral, go ahead and book that call with me. I do a strategy video call. It's complimentary. I can help you from wherever you're at, whether you're in the Northeast, Northwest, Midwest, Canada, Europe, South America. I've helped clients from all over, and we start with a conversation, and that's a video call. So go ahead and book that video call. You can hit the QR code right there on the screen. If you are watching this on TV, or if you're watching it on your phone, you can do that as well, or there is a link in the description that you can set that up. And it just takes a couple of minutes to set that up. And once we set that up, we start the conversation. Whether you're thinking about buying next month, next year, or you're still a few years out, maybe the kids aren't quite out of the house yet, or you're not ready to retire, but you would like to start talking about that conversation, I would love to chat with you. We are getting here towards the end of summer now. So if you are up there in the north, I'm sure you're starting to think about pulling that boat out of the water, putting it back into storage. It's not a fun conversation to have. It's not a fun thing to do, and then set it in storage for 7 months. Here in Cape Coral, the boats are docked in the backyard, right at our home, 365 days a year. We can take them out anytime we want. It's absolutely fabulous to go out and do some island hopping, maybe go out to a restaurant, have some dinner, watch the sunset. Just a great place to be and to enjoy. So go ahead and click the link, schedule that call. Let's chat. Look forward to seeing you. Can't wait to connect. Have a great day.